Hi guys, David here with another science update. So today the first article that I want to talk about is from Science Daily, and it says pioneering software can grow and treat virtual tumors using AI designed nanoparticles. The summary is that the summary says the EVONANO platform allows scientists to grow virtual tumors and use artificial intelligence to automatically optimize the design of nanoparticles to treat them. The ability to grow and treat virtual tumors is an important step towards developing new therapies for cancer. Importantly, scientists can use virtual tumors to optimize design of nanoparticle-based drugs before they are tested in the laboratory or patients. So the main thrust of this research is that since every cancer is essentially unique and each tumor is also unique, we'll have more success in treating a specific tumor if we can customize the treatment for that tumor. And when they're talking about, when they say optimized design of nanoparticle based drugs, they're specifically talking about what are called drug delivery systems. So you have a drug, like a chemotherapy agent is considered an active pharmaceutical ingredient or an API, but there's also there's more to a medicine than just the API, and there are things called excipients, which essentially describe everything that goes along with the drug. And so sometimes that could be a protective coating to keep the drug from breaking down. And in the case of nanoparticle-based drug delivery, it can actually be a very complex nanoparticle, which is designed to accumulate in certain parts of the body, but not other parts of the body. And that goes a long way towards determining the success of a process like chemotherapy, which is basically a way of poisoning your body in the hopes that you'll kill more tumor cells than you will kill healthy cells, and that your body will survive, but the tumor will die. And so nanoparticle-based drug delivery helps with that because it can help make sure that the medicine winds up at the tumor site more than it does, say, healthy tissue and destroy your healthy organs. So this platform, the EVONANO platform, allows scientists to grow virtual tumors and use artificial intelligence to automatically optimize the design of these drug delivery nanoparticle systems. They consider this to be an important step in terms of developing new therapies for cancer and also optimize the design of these systems before they're tested in the lab or in patients. The very cool thing about this is that if they can effectively model a specific tumor type in the computer, what's called in silico, then they can simulate how many different types of treatments might interact with that tumor. They can then select the best treatment approach and then deploy only that one. The basic idea is that they're creating a digital twin of a patient's tumor. So if a patient comes in and they have a tumor, what they'll do is they can take various tests of that tumor to determine its type, and then in the computer they create a virtual version of that specific tumor, and then they can do this trial and error experimentation in a simulation form. So it's not going to be perfectly accurate, of course, but it could potentially go a long way towards allowing an optimized treatment to be discovered. Right, so they say that nanoparticle-based drugs have the potential for improved targeting of cancer cells. This is because nanoparticles are like tiny vehicles that can be engineered to transport drugs to tumors. Their design changes their ability to move in the body and correctly target cancer cells. A bioengineer might, for example, change the size, charge, or material of the nanoparticle, coat the nanoparticles with molecules that make them easy to recognize by certain cancer cells, or load them with different types of drugs to kill different types of cancer cells. So the actual paper is also available. So this was published on the 21st of September, so this is brand new. So the scientific paper is called Evolutionary Computational Platform for the Automatic Discovery of Nanocarriers for Cancer Treatment. So I think we get the gist already, which is that we're trying to make a virtual twin of a specific patient's tumor and then be able to optimize treatment before we even actually start injecting the patient with any medicines. But there are a couple interesting figures that I want to highlight from this scientific paper. So the first one is the general overview of the EVONANO platform. This just gives us a visual of some of the things I've already been saying. So the idea is a patient comes in and you're going to run diagnostics on them. That's indicated by the little needle. So it says specify tumor properties and proposed therapeutic payload. So we'll get a sense of what's going on with the tumor. And then the EVONANO simulation platform for optimization of treatment parameters. So this first step is they grow a virtual tumor. This is like using a computer program, right? This is all in the computer. Then they generate treatment scenarios from virtual tumor statistics. So based on, a really in-depth study of the virtual tumor, which should hopefully mimic the real tumor, you can basically go through different treatment scenarios and then optimize the treatment parameter values. So that's going to be things like the nanoparticle size, its charge, which specific active pharmaceutical ingredient you're going to use. And then you get to design and test the proposed nanocarrier and drug treatment. So that's basically the gist of it. There's this other figure here. Figure 2 shows the virtual tumor module of the EVONANO platform. So it's pretty interesting. The way it works is like it would with a real cancer tumor. They're going to start with a couple of cancer cells and then have it grow out from there according to what we understand, like the way cancer cells grow. And then you see that at 7 days, they get this tumor simulation. It's going to be a mix of vascular cells, cancer cells, and then necrotic cells. And so with tumors, it tends to be you have a mix of healthy tissues. You also will have various vascular tissue, which is bringing blood, blood supply and nutrients into the cancer area. You have cancer cells, and then you also have necrotic cells, which are dead cells. But that's the basic idea. I think it's very cool. They stress that there's a lot of work to be done to improve the growth of the virtual tumor, and that's probably the weak point in all of this. And when I say weak point, I don't mean that it's a bad idea in any way. I'm just saying this is probably the hardest part of it, is to grow a virtual tumor that really reflects what the patient's tumor is like. So they're continuing to work on it, and I don't know if this will be deployed soon in actual treatment, but I think it's an amazing thing they're doing here, and I hope they're successful. So I have another article that I want to talk about today, and this one is about the Mars program, sort of. The title of the article is Perseverance Breathes Fresh Life into the Mining and Space Sectors. And it's talking about the Mars rover's Perseverance's CO2 splitting MOXIE device draws the eyes of the world's biggest miners. And so this is actually an article about a mining conference that was recently carried out. And what's interesting is that it looks like executives from the mining industry are looking closely at some of the technologies that are developed as part of the Mars program. And specifically, there's this Mars rover's Perseverance's MOXIE, which is the Mars Oxygen In Situ Resource Utilization Experiment. And it's interesting, the device is a 17 kilogram box that breaks carbon dioxide into oxygen through a solid oxide electrolysis system at a rate of about 10 grams per hour, roughly that of a large tree. NASA says a version of this device, scaled up some 100 times, would support a human mission to the red planet, not to mention eliminate the need for an otherwise massive cargo haul. Which makes sense, basically. If you have to bring all of your oxygen with you for, say, a 2-year mission, that's a very, very different story than if you can make some of it when you're actually on location. Moreover, they say when we send humans to Mars, we will want them to return safely, and to do that, they need a rocket to lift off the planet. Liquid oxygen propellant is something we could make there and not have to bring with us. So oxygen is also an important fuel for rockets. So what's interesting in this article, it says that this conference, this mining conference, the mining people were saying things like, if we could get MOXIE working, we could apply it, in a more cost-effective way. They're saying they could apply it to mining and in industrial processes as a way to reduce the CO2 developed during these processes. So for example, it's if they could build a large-scale module to basically crack CO2 and make pure oxygen from it, our emissions would drop drastically for any CO2 source on any industrial plant. And MOXIE is doing that by creating an oxidizer for future human and robotic missions on Mars. So they're eyeing this MOXIE technology and wondering if perhaps this is a way that we could approach reducing the carbon footprint of industrial and mining processes. Of course, the issue with that is that MOXIE is going to take a fair amount of electricity, a fair amount of energy to do. So this type of assumption really only works if you have lots and lots of excess clean energy. So if we could get nuclear fusion working reliably, then maybe we could then use a MOXIE unit, put a MOXIE unit in on all of our factories that produce CO2 and all of our mining, and then we could be perhaps converting the CO2 back to oxygen and eliminate the CO2 footprint. But you would need to have massive amounts of extra energy lying around, and for that, I think the only way that's going to happen is if we can get nuclear fusion to work at scale. So maybe this is something we'll be doing in say like 30 or 40 years, basically eliminating the carbon footprint of all of our industrial processes by just adding a MOXIE unit to it, like a really large scale MOXIE unit. Well, thanks so much for watching. This has been another science update. I hope you'll join me again in the future soon. Bye.